As a mum of a teenage girl who plays competitive football, this is brilliant.
Be bold, be brave, be like Persil.
Over 3/4 of women, 78% of women have stopped playing sports at some point because of their periods.
I grew up thinking that if I was on my period, I should sit out from PE or sport. It kind of became normal to skip training or matches.
Say you have period blood on your shots, it's something that half of the population have, and it happens and it's natural.
You need the boys and girls in the room to understand it.
We want to make it the same for all bloodstains.
Making a real impact for the brand and for the next generation.
I think it was a really good experience and it helps everyone understand more about periods.
In the future, I'll make sure that I'm compassionate and understanding.
Now, for the first time in the period conversation, there's a new message. We don't have to hide.
I'm Leah Williamson and I won the European Championships with England and I was on my period.
Every stain should be part of the game.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, exactly. And it's great to see such a large crowd, actually, for this conversation. And Tati, I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind.
Yep.
You know, an unapologetic campaign built on, I think, one of the most enduring brand platforms over the last 10 or 15 years, maybe. Dirt is good. And it founded what I think was an amazing provocation into not just sport and women and girls sport, but also society more widely. I think it was, you know, born of a cultural insight, wasn't it? Blood, sweat, tears, stains are celebrated in sport, badges of honour, but not all stains. I've heard it being called the taboo stain. Talk to us about why this stain isn't given the credit or the acknowledgement it deserves, but also why this conversation was so important.
Yep. So, as you rightly said, sport accepts and celebrates mud, grass, blood, sweat, and as a badge of honour, but not period stains. So we realized that when a stain becomes a reason why girls stop playing or fear playing, we needed to do something about it. I personally, I'm a mom, and I was tired of seeing my son arriving home, for instance, extremely happy because he had a blood stain on his football socks, really celebrating how brave he was. Whereas my niece, for instance, she would hide her kit under her jumper. And at Dirt is Good, a brand I've been honored to lead for over 5 years, we believe that every stain tells a story of freedom and resilience, and period stains should be no different.
Amazing. And Katie, Champions League winner, Katie, by the way, Katie McCabe. Congratulations on this season's success. Katie, one of the stats that shocked me, 6 out of 10 girls, you know, are reticent or anxious or aren't playing sport when they're on their period. Represents a massive barrier to getting girls and women into sport. Talk us through when you received this kind of idea, what the conversation was and how you felt about it.
Yeah, I think for us as players, sometimes when you've got kind of brands or commercial people come in and present you a meet and you're like, all right, another one. But for this one with Persil, it resonated with every single player in the squad. And for us, when we seen the stats and the dropouts of not just women or young girls in football, but in sport in general, how many girls are dropping out of it was mind-blowing to us. And for us was like, how is this possible? Then how can we kind of make a difference? And for us, we kind of resonated, and it actually sparked a conversation in the dressing room prior to the meeting with Persil. It was like, does this happen to you? Is this something you've been kind of worried about? And then it kind of got us going. And for us, we kind of went head first in terms of the Persil campaign because we wanted to make a difference and we want to make sure young girls feel more inclusive in sport and football especially.
Fantastic. And Ian, thank you. I mean, you have been such a proponent of the women's game. It seems to be going through a period of massive growth. But this is a barrier, and it's a societal barrier. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for men. Yeah. It is a taboo. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. When you heard about this, your involvement and your feelings about it as a man and also a father and a grandfather, I believe.
Well, what I loved, the fact is, obviously, I've got daughters of my own. You know, I've got my youngest daughter not long ago started her cycle. And the thing with it is it's the awkward nature that's happening. You know something's happening in the house. Your wife's dealing with stuff. She's not speaking to you as much. You know, all of a sudden you're speaking to her. It's another woman in the house that's having her period. But the fact is, it's the uncomfortableness, it's the awkwardness, it's the trying to get involved in the conversation. when, as a man, what do you say? You know, how do you do it? And I remember doing podcasts with the great Steph Horton and Beth Mead, and I remember the night before I was doing it, I was thinking, right, I've got to do this podcast with the ladies, and I honestly haven't got a clue what I'm going to say. I don't know how this is going to pan out. And what I realized, obviously, is my job there was being there. Me being there was massive. Being there and trying to be a part of it says everything I needed to say in respects of learning and listening and being a part of it.
Fantastic. And Tati, thinking about the process, the casting of how you brought this group together to make this work, the films are always very glossy, but it comes with all sorts of tension, I'm sure. We'll talk about that a bit later. But were you deliberate in terms of who you had in the creative process, men and women? And obviously you had a number of stakeholders to manage, and not only getting this through Unilever as well, which I'm sure was very challenging at times.
No, so I think, well, there is no shortage, to be honest, with everyone working in advertising. There is no shortage of campaigns or innovations which help or should help women feeling more comfortable while playing on their period. But while these are commendable, they expose a deeper issue, that the burden of adaptation falls on us, women. So we have to hide, to conceal, to manage, because God forbid if someone is going to see our period leaks. So we deliberately took the decision that this campaign would be about freedom. So we decided that women should have the freedom to hide their period. They don't need it to announce if they don't want to. They can use a badge if they want to announce. If they want to stop playing because they feel comfortable, they should be allowed to. But most importantly, if they want to keep playing, they should also be allowed to. And that can only happen in a world where these girls and women know they are not going to be made fun of, or in the case of professional athletes, create headlines. So that's why we purposefully kept a representation of men throughout the creative process, production, and even when we brought it to life, we work, of course, with Ian and some other men, because we wanted to make sure that it would be about inclusion and systemic change, and not just women talking to women. So that was crucial for us. And that's also something that we show. We worked with the Arsenal in the community to create programs that could educate girls and boys about period stains.
Brilliant. And Katie, it's my daughter's 13th birthday today, okay? And I think what she sees in someone like you is someone to follow, role model, someone who's unapologetic and just moving through her life as she sees fit. I think freedom's an interesting question. If you don't mind, Katie, how does that contrast, and this conversation we're having, with when you were sort of 13 years old and coming up through the game, and what were your experiences that maybe validates the whole reason for this discussion?
I was actually very lucky to grow up in a team where I was a young player in a very senior team back in Ireland with Raheny United, and those girls made it a very comfortable conversation, whereas if you did have a leak, it would be okay. And there'd be kind of code words used that if you did, instead of saying you've got a leak on the pitch, which we actually carry on to use now in the Arsenal team, we've got a code word for it. If we are on the pitch and we see it within another player, we will use that code word, so that player isn't feeling like embarrassed or anything like that. But for me, it was so important growing up and having those. It's allies, isn't it? It's allies like senior women that are so comfortable. It's allies like Ian, who are male figures within the game, that are normalising these conversations to make young girls feel like it's okay, you know?
And you made a deliberate decision as a team. You were going to wear the white and the red, and you were going to wear the white shorts. How did that come about? How was the conversation?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there was a period within women's football where national teams and club teams were kind of making that switch over from white shorts to a more neutral colour or a darker colour. But for us, the question was kind of posed to us as a team, and the majority kind of went with the white shorts because we didn't want to change the traditional red and white of the Arsenal, and also we wanted to normalise that if you do have a leak, it's okay. And for us, I think we're very proud of that decision, because we could have folded towards the darker red or to match the home shirt, but other teams did, and that's cool, and that's fine with that. But for us, we wanted to make sure we were going to make a difference, and that's why we chose.
Can I say about the normalising of it, it's easily, for me, one of the most taboo subjects for men to try and deal with. And when you look at men and the amount, how prominent they are in the women's game, you know, men run the game, men train the women and the girls, you know, the coaches, everything, you know, and men have the most taboo and the most awkwardness about it. I think it was brilliant right from the start to have men involved. They have to understand what's going on. They have to be involved in this conversation. And this is why, from the start, I'm pleased that Tati made sure that men were involved. And you have to be uncomfortable and comfortable in that situation because it's something that's happening. It's something. I'm pleased that the girls as well, for their own sakes, they said, no, that's the colour of the shirt, that's the colour of the shorts, we're going to do it, and we're going to deal with it. And people take that on board. They've got to own that.
And you and I were talking backstage. You were talking about some of the distinctions between the men's game, even going into the stands, and the women's game, like a more supportive environment, a more progressive environment, arguably. It seems to be what you feel when you're involved.
I love it. I love football, and people always ask me about being an advocate for women's football. I love football, and women are playing it, so I will do anything I can to make sure that I can use my voice or use my platform to make sure that they get a fair crack, you know. And like I say, I do. I prefer going to the women's games. I can walk up normally. I don't have to listen when I bring my daughter. Yeah, when I bring my girl, and you're hearing guys shouting and swearing. I'm thinking, do I have to go and say something to him? Is he going to try and knock me out? Do I have to try and be the big man here? But when you go to the women's game, it's harmonious. And this is where I feel like the space I want to be in now when it comes to this stage of my life, trying to help and be in a place where I feel comfortable, man.
Fantastic.
Even to touch on that, like back 40 years ago, Arsenal community, they were the ones that set up the women's team, and they are the ones that still to this day educate the academy boys coming through, the academy girls coming through, and make it a one club mentality. Everyone obviously looks at the exterior, the first team men, first team women, but actually it's getting done right in the grassroots part of the club.
And academy boys and girls, you said.
They learn at the same time, side by side, about the menstrual system. It's a brilliant menstrual cycle.
Fantastic. Tati, I'm going to take it to the creative process. A can line video is a beautiful thing, and it's a very smooth thing, and it's been edited, and it's perfect, and it suggests a harmonious process. Great creative work is rarely without tension, necessary tension, I would argue. Tati, you had all sorts of dynamics to deal with here. You had a brave and bold idea. You had your own stakeholders internally. You also had, obviously, the creative agency and the agencies you work with, but you also had Arsenal, you also had the athletes themselves. Talk to us about that and how you navigated that and how you work together.
No, I think I'm used to the internal stakeholders. I've been partnering with Malin Lowe for years now, so those were easier. They were difficult. So
I can't believe it. Tell us more.
Yes.
Headlines tomorrow across Cannes.
Now, basically, we got it. We got rejected the first and the second time.
By the team?
Yeah. By the team.
Speak your truth, Tat. Speak the truth. Tell them.
And only in the third time when we presented the campaign, we realized that we are getting it right. And this is also the time that we realized that we needed to listen to them and to understand the right tonality. Because even this whole idea of freedom, I have to be honest, some of the initial iterations of the campaign, we were pushing in one direction because it's very easy to patronize in this world of like period and period stains. And so by, I have to say, sharing authorship, so much so that I always say that one of the girls actually gave us the line, oh, but why every stay is not part of the game? And I was like, okay, that is the sort of freedom.
Well, royalty becoming your way, I think.
So, no, it was a really beautiful process that we worked them with the Arsenal women's team, but we also worked with a group of girls aged 14 to 18 who either stopped or carried on playing this regardless of period leagues. So it was beautiful to understand from the ones leaving that experience than, of course, us in the office.
Can I say about the women being involved? And I think that this, the reason why this campaign has resonated so much around the world is because of the fact that the girls were involved. I know it might take a little while to get going, but the reason that it has got to where it is and people love it so much around the world is because they were involved. But the fact is, they wanted to be a part of it, and they want to talk about it. You know, the generation of girls now, you know, they're brave enough to go on their social media and speak about it. I'm not talking about having to be, like, insanely brave, but what you need is in this situation, you just need people to focus on getting to the real meaningful conversation. You know, whether that means, like I said when I spoke to the girls about, you know, being there and just listening, you know, being a part of it, you know, being open to education and understanding of it. That's what it comes down to. Really.
And Ian, just build on that for me a bit. What do you benefit from as a brand or in a campaign when you're bringing athletes into it? Is it more vulnerability, more insight, a more raw account?
I think, like, in terms of what Ian has just said, I think for us to kind of use our platform and for us to be at the forefront of a campaign, you have to let your guard down, you have to be vulnerable. So that means sharing your stories. You've seen Leah on the Telegraph there in terms of saying that she had a period when she won the Euro Cup final. Like, it was unbelievable, but she had a period at that time. So it's kind of letting people in to understand that you're going through these highs and lows in football, but, like, you have to go through with the period symptoms as well, you know? This
is going to be the toughest one to normalise. This is easily going to be the toughest one to normalise, and that's why the conversation has to be ongoing, James. Constantly.
I mean, there are vehicles now to do it. I'm thoughtful of you as an athlete, Katie, right now, Ian, retired, but you have a direct connection with your audience now, your fans. Is that something that you're enthusiastic about? Is it something that kind of fills you with a little bit of reticence sometimes, like, just leave me alone, I want to be a footballer? Or is it something that you see as a vehicle, as an opportunity? I mean, certainly you used it to great power in this.
No, absolutely not. I think when I had the opportunity to be one of the faces of the campaign along with the girls, I jumped at it straight away, because for me, when I was growing up as a young kid in Dublin, I didn't have female role models growing up. I was in awe of Damien Duff and Roy Keane and Robbie Keane playing for Ireland and representing over in England. I didn't have women's footballers, so now that I'm in that position, the least I can do is be a role model for the girls back home. And obviously playing in the Champions League final back at the end of the May, like, for me, I hope there's a young girl back in Ireland wanting to grow up to be like me one day and kind of be proud of their roots as well.
Yes, I think that's right. And let me ask you a really detailed question, and I'm aware that Tati is at the end of this group here. Tell us about the process, the creative process. Did you have team meetings? Were you working with the team? Was this a discussion you had on your own and brought thoughts back? I mean, Tati's given you the credit for coming up with the line. A great line it is too.
I didn't really come up with the line. I was just joking with that.
How was your involvement? How did the Unilever business engage you learn along the way?
To be fair, like, you came in like once or twice, and we weren't sure of the tone of the messaging and the imagery kind of behind it, and they went away and came back and made sure they understood where we were coming from an athlete's point of view and a footballer's point of view, and there was a lot of conversations behind it as well, which was really important, and they really just wanted to kind of grasp what the importance was from an athlete's point of view, and I think they done it in a terrific way. In the meeting, in the pitch meeting in front of us, I think it was like after a 3-day game week, I think there was just like monotone faces, and we just didn't want any of it, but they came in and they spoke to us, and we opened up and gave our opinions, but that's what I love about it. It opens up conversation. It opens up conversation between female locker room talk, male allies, male coaches, and that's what we're trying to achieve here.
And Ian, I mean, you've made the transition to great effect, broadcaster, publisher in your own right now. I'm interested to get your point of view on, because you were also highly marketed as a player, weren't you? You were a big part of Nike's...
He was all right.
Yeah.
I worked it.
Well, tell us more about that. You know, how do you see how this campaign has come together and the process of that and the inclusivity and the feedback and how it was received versus maybe when you were playing and how you were engaging with brands?
No, but
it's changed.
No, I wouldn't say it's changed, but this is a real serious taboo subject. You know, when I'm signing them deals, I'm signing those deals just to get the bag, bro. You know what I mean? This isn't like putting out no messages, you know. I was advertising anything, foolishness. You know, I was taking it. But, like, this is real. This is real. This is something that affects a lot of women around the world, a lot of girls around the world. And so I wasn't involved in anything as this serious that you can really look back on and say, yeah, this is really good. But now I'm in a situation, I'm a father. I've got like 4 girls. You know what I mean? I know like the cycles coming. I see them coming down the corridor. I know what they're like when this starts to happen. And you can't be involved. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, yes, I saw my wife the other day. You know, she was trying to, because she came on her cycle, and my wife wanted her to make sure that she's got spare for school. And the way she reacted, like, I've got it. Don't tell me. So if my wife is trying to explain to me, yeah, what am I going to say to her? So the main thing for me is to be in there, be around it, be a part of it, so she can see I'm supportive of her. That's what it comes down to.
I mean, you were very humble there talking about what you were selling, and I think this conversation, Unilever have been very much the driver of purpose-driven marketing, and I'm being reductive, but this had purpose at its core. Yeah. Moving it on around the future direction of creativity and campaigns, talk to us about some of the clues this campaign's giving us, because it comes with, you know, athletes at the core. It comes with a social conscience, like how, and it also comes with incredible virality. It really did become a conversation around the world, as you said, Ian. Talk to us about what you see as being the new norm in modern marketing and how this can maybe pertain to that.
I think what made this campaign particularly special, it is the simplicity, but the bravery of the campaign. And the fact that we showed something that is quietly understood, but not acknowledged.
Yes.
And also, as Ian was saying, period stigma is deeply personal, but widely shared. So obviously, when we launched the campaign, we realized so many comments and so many people actually saying, finally, that's me, thank you Arsenal, thank you Dirt is Good, thank you Persil. And this is when we confirmed that we were doing the right thing. In fact, in the second week of the campaign, 70% of the content out there was no longer created by us. We didn't have to do much. We just shared a few posts here and there. Yeah. It was not a campaign that was on TV or anything, so it was not a campaign with a big investment. So it was a campaign made by the players in the community, to players and the community.
I'd love to build on that. Katie, Annie, and Katie, the campaign goes live. What were your expectations? And I suspect what happened when this thing blew up? I mean, in terms of the conversations around the training room and the changing room, was it something that was a surprise to the team and to you, or was it something that, you know, everybody had a story and you guys would have had the courage to say it? What happened after the campaign immediately?
Yeah, no, I think it was the latter in terms of everyone has a story. Everyone's officiated to a female, whether it's their sister, wife, daughter. Everyone's around it if you're a female yourself. So it was, for us, it was a breath of fresh air from an athlete's point of view, that the fact we used our platform, spoke out about it, shared our stories, that it was actually having a really positive impact on the community in which we wanted it to. And not just the female community, but also the wider kind of conversation off the back of that as well. So we were thrilled that it went so well, and it's a pleasure to be able to be here even speaking about it in front of like such an amazing audience, because it's such an important conversation to be having.
Fantastic.
I think with myself, obviously I spoke about speaking with Steph Horton on my podcast Crossways with Beth Mead when it first came out, and I was very, very surprised with the response from people, from everybody. And this is why I say it's a conversation that everybody has to be amongst. But when you have someone stop you in the street, a woman stop you in the street and say to you that they're really pleased that you're dealing with this situation with women's periods, that's not something I expected would happen in my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? That you're reaching people, talking about something so taboo, and someone thanks you for putting it out there. You know, that's like I say with Tati and the way they doubled down on it and made sure they got the girls and got everybody involved and men at the start. Because when you get that kind of reaction, it makes you realise you have broken through something. You've done something.
More than a like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. More than a like.
Fantastic.
That might be a good tagline. More than
we've got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to just open it up a little bit more broadly. Katie, I'll start with you and then go to you, Tati, and finish with you, Ian. Katie, Sport Beach, the intersection of sport, fandom, culture, and the athlete. It's really about, and brands, and how they can, you know, use brands as a platform, use sport as a platform. Sort of talk to me more broadly about the role that sport's played in your life and the role that you think sport can play in girls and women, but, you know, young people in terms of developmental, in terms of social progress, confidence building. Talk to us about that, because the women's game is growing exponentially.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think for me, sport from a very young age gave me a sense of belonging, and for me, growing up as a young kid, there wasn't many girls' teams. There wasn't any girls' teams, to be putting it frank. I was surrounded by boys a lot, so for me going into boys' environments and the lads in the teenage years, you always kind of had to prove yourself and be a bit more robust and stick up for yourself. But again, you kind of got a ball at your feet, and yeah, they kind of understood you. You kind of got the respect. So I feel like that's kind of led into where I am now as a player in my professional career. Like, I'm hard hitting, I'll be tough, and I wear my heart on the sleeve when I play. So yeah, for me it was so magical. I played all types of sports, Gaelic football, camogie growing up, obviously the Irish sports. But yeah, football was always the one that kind of stuck to me, and yeah, I'm happy it did. And when Arsenal came in for me when I was 19-year-old, I jumped at the opportunity to come over and play, because there was 3 legends that played for Arsenal at the time, which was Emma Byrne, Ciara Grant and Yvonne Tracy. And growing up, I just wanted to be like them and win a Champions League trophy. And yeah, luckily enough, we were able to do it at the end of May.
You certainly were. You certainly were. Tati, how does sport feature in Unilever's plans? How do you see it as a vehicle for growth within your own business, but also a way to connect with audiences and customers?
I think, of course, the sport has been growing exponentially. Sport Beach is a very beautiful example of that. But what I strongly believe is the brand in which that you are leading should have a role to play within sport. I think somehow the mistakes that some brands do is to just tap in sports as a media reach type of thing, instead of really understanding what the brand essence and sport have to do with one another. That's why, of course, in Dirt is Good, because you have so many things and that associated to sport, and the idea of Dirt is Good is about resilience, and sport is the best place to showcase resilience. We believe that it's a match made in heaven.
Very good. And Ian, a final word from you, please, in terms of, you have been a massive proponent of the women's game. It doesn't seem that football writ large has a ceiling. It has no sort of ceiling geographically. It's growing exponentially every year, and the women's game especially. What is your hope for the women's game over the next 3 to 5?
I'd love to see a lot more investment in the women's game, raise the minimum standards of the women's game. You know, it's like I say, football's for everyone. You know, listen to Katie speak there. And when I was younger, all I wanted to do was play football. But every time I came to my house as a little boy, I could play football everywhere.
Yeah.
The reason why I've got so much admiration for Katie and the girls, the women who won the Euros in England, is because they never had it. They never had the dream of being able to do it. They achieved the dream that they couldn't even have when they were kids, because if they dreamt that, it would disappoint them because it wasn't available. So for me, and people talk about my allyship and that, I'm just happy that I was able to play football, and football has taken me everywhere. Apart from the moon, football's taken me. It's given me everything. It's educated me. I've met great people, you know what I mean? And I will be a slave to football until I die.
Fantastic.
In whatever manner I can.
I'm going to finish with you. Yes, we can do that. Absolutely. Thank you. Katie, final word from you. What's on your mind? What's your biggest ambition over the next couple of years in the game?
To win more Champions League medals with Arsenal Football Club. That's
Fantastic.
Where's the medal?
The medal,
Where's
yeah.
the medal? She's got the medal.
Oh, yeah, we have a medal. Look at this. Fantastic achievement.
Yay!
Fantastic achievement. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, just a massive thank you to this panel. You made that incredibly easy for me and everybody, and brilliant, brilliant audience. So an important conversation. Thank you.